Today's episode is brought to you by Forvis Mazars.
SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. There are many reasons why an employee may choose to join your company. It could be the location, job progression, responsibilities, the salary, or a combination of any of these things. It could also be the non-monetary incentives or perks. HR specialist and CEO of EST10, Roxanne Calder, says perks can be a great idea to attract and keep talented staff. But as you'll hear shortly, they must resonate with the needs of the individual and provide value. Traditionally, she says, industry-specific benefits were the drawcard, travel being the classic example. Roxanne explains to Chris Ashmore.
People typically went into the travel industry because they wanted to travel. You know, they would join Qantas or they would be a travel agent because it would fulfill that part of, what they wanted from life, which might have been more travel opportunities, so you'd get cheaper holidays, all those sorts of things. Or even at a very basic level, if you're a hairdresser, then you get free haircuts. I don't know. Like it sort of was linked much more to the industry and to what you sort of enjoyed or had an interest in. And then it all shifted and changed. We saw that much more come about during COVID. So when we all came out of COVID, businesses came out of COVID and they were really ramping up. And what they found was the skills crisis. So, the skills crisis was already sort of tapping and knocking on the door before COVID happened. It's just that it just brought it all to the surface more so. So businesses were trying to hire, they're trying to ramp up really quickly, and then they struggled. And so what happened is they threw everything in to try and the word I would use to make it really clear to what happened then was they stopped becoming perks and benefits and became more of a lure. But the problem with that is it didn't really translate into what the results were. I think it was something like at the peak of all the what I call the perks profusion in 2022, at the peak there, it was something like 60% of people surveyed worldwide were dissatisfied at work. And 19% were actively disengaged. And then, of course, what happened directly after that was the Great Resignation, which was the highest amount of quit rates we've seen in the 21st century.
What benefits do perks provide?
So if I take it from an employee perspective, the sorts of benefits that people can expect are, healthcare, insurance, flexible working, all those sorts of things that are the sort of core. But in terms of an employer, so if you're an employer, the benefits of offering perks are basically still about attraction, but it can't be, again, if I use that really strong word, which is lure, it can't be a lure. It must be an attraction and it must resonate because ultimately what you want is retention. And I think that we shouldn't shy away from talking about a return on investment because these are costs to a business. And I think too often we're too scared as business owners or employers or managers or leaders that we hide behind this. But the perks and the benefits, that they must return some form of investment to the business. Otherwise, they're a cost. So, the benefits are, attraction, attracting talent, boosting retention, enhancing your productivity, improving job satisfaction, which will also improve the culture of the business, loyalty, and ultimately all of that plays to the bottom line.
Do perks alone entice people to stay at a company?
I think if you have the right perks, and maybe in this case we would call them benefits, I think they play a role, but ultimately a perk is not going to keep someone in a job. It has to be more than that. And also, they're very individual. So what you would want from a benefit at work, you and I could be in the same organisation, we could actually do the same job, but what you want that would be a benefit to you is going to be different to what I want. So ultimately, I think for businesses to get their perks and benefits right, there's a number of things that come into play. And the key one that I always talk about, always, is know your people. Because if you know and you're close to your people, then you'll know what works. And those benefits shift and change. So, I think if you're doing some form of feedback, like if you're able to measure the perks and the benefits, then you'll sort of get a gauge of that. If you're able to survey to understand what the different demographics even are that suit different people and measure them as well. So if your aim is retention, you want to know the baseline that you were working from previously and then, put whatever the perk is or the benefit or the bonus is and be able to measure that. And again, it comes back to it needs to be some form of return to your business.
Same local team, new global reach. Forvis Mazars, formerly Mazars, is an international audit, tax and advisory firm committed to helping you confidently grow your business. Find out how Forvis Mazars can support you at forvismazars.com/au. That's forvismazars.com/au.
When I was a corporate recruiter in Tokyo many years ago, I remember going into these wonderful foreign tech companies like Google and Amazon, and there's the cafe that they could help themselves to, and all those. I mean, when we think of modern perks, we think of those companies. But you mentioned before hidden costs. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. What exactly should a company think about when it comes to the costs of perks?
I might just touch on what you just said then, because there was and I'll come back to the hidden costs. Yep. There was a really great article with news.com, and it was about a CEO in Perth, mining company. I don't know if you saw it. And he's putting a whole lot of things in place in the business. And the language he used was really strong. It was interesting. But it was basically to keep people in the office and in the business to get productivity up because, Australia has an issue with productivity. And he was offering a whole range of things. So childcare, lunches, coffees, you name it. Gym, I think he even had. He had a whole range of things to be able to keep people longer in the office. And I'm using pretty strong words here as well, but only because I want to make sure that it's translating the right way so people really understand. I don't mean longer days, but to be more productive in the 7 or 8 hours that you are in the office. And then it made me think about that because back in the day, long time ago, we used to have things like tea ladies. So, bigger companies like, Telstra, the banks, they used to have tea ladies. So if you equate that to today's terms, and if you put that into a sort of realm, if the tea lady is coming round to your desk for a coffee or a tea, and it costs the business a salary of the tea lady, but you're a big business and you've got 300 employees, 1,000 employees, whatever that might be, times that by 20 minutes to go out and get a coffee and then come back, you've got a return on investment there. So that's the sort of stuff that I'm talking about, especially if it's what people like and enjoy. And maybe they weren't even thinking about going out to get a coffee. And there's the added benefit there that they're getting a coffee that maybe makes them think, gee, that's really good. I really needed that then, or a tea or a biscuit or whatever it might be. Lunch as well that might come around. So let's go back to the hidden costs now. So the hidden costs that I talk about with these things, so that's a direct cost. If you have a gym on site, if you've got a tea lady or whatever it might be, that's a direct cost. But the hidden costs that we talk about are the hiring and the rehiring, the loss of intellectual property, the loss of engagement in your workforce, and the ripple effect of resignations. So they're the hidden costs that people don't take into account when you get the perks wrong. So this is not about not having the perks, but this is about getting the perks wrong. So you put a perk in place that attracts or lures, and if that only works for a 3-month period because it was, a gift, I think I refer to it as something like a gift with purchase, where the gift is more important than the purchase. People are choosing a job because I get 5 weeks annual leave, but in actual fact, I don't have purpose in my job because it's not really the industry that I love, but I'm doing it because I wanted that 5 weeks, the extra week of annual leave. That person will leave. They're not going to hang around because if the purpose isn't there, they don't love the job, they don't love the industry. At the end of the day, that 5th week makes no difference. And I speak to people about this all the time. I was speaking to a journalist the other day who was saying that where they work, they don't have perks of other organisations, but what they do have there is reach, and they have really great senior managers. So whilst the perks in another organisation, would be on this sort of superficial level of what it might be, the bean bags or the ping pong tables or whatever it might be, or even the free lunches or whatever it is, at the end of the day for this person, this individual, what they wanted was the mentorship, the fact that they're growing in their career, and the fact that when they write something, it's got reach to be seen and read. It really is individualistic, but absolutely there are hidden costs there that we need to take into account.
That was EST10 Managing Director, Roxanne Calder. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Chris Ashmore, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Forvis Mazars. To find out more, visit forvismazars.com/au. That's FORVISMAZARS.com/au.